It's Levack and Goz on 104.5 The Team.
Lots of great stories going on in the world of sports. Well, not if your last name's Hornacek, but or Austin at this moment. Probably this is okay. Great stories for us.
Yes,
the NBA about to start the playoffs. The Knicks moving on from Jeff Hornacek. Joining us right now on the phone from the Sporting News, Sean Deveny. Sean, first off, why exactly do you feel the Knicks decided to move on from Hornacek?
Well, I think it was a matter of, and you see this a lot, and not just basketball in any sport, but when you have a front office that is new, as the Knicks front office is, just this year taking over, and you've got a coach that you didn't hire, who hasn't done a particularly great job. There's not a lot of loyalty there. There's not a lot of shared vision. So you really do see that it's pretty common. So I think it's just a matter of them wanting to get a guy who is more in tune with where they want to take this thing. Same thing happened in Orlando as well. Frank Vogel's a very good coach down in Orlando, but they have a new front office that they brought in last year, and they didn't hire Frank Vogel. So you could kind of see the writing on the wall as far as those coaching changes go.
What type of candidates will the Knicks now consider for their future head coach?
It's a good question, because we've seen the Knicks make mistakes with this time and time again, where you go for the big name rather than the guy who suits your needs. This is a rebuilding project. They're not going to get better next year. They're not going to get better in 2 years. This is a 2, 3, 4 year project before you start to see something coming to fruition. And they need to have that view on this. So a guy like David Fizdale, the coach who was fired by the Grizzlies during the season, he's got a great reputation as a talent developer. That's probably what they need here. I think this front office knows that. It's a question whether ownership knows that, or whether ownership is going to go for a little more of a high profile name, a Mark Jackson, even though he doesn't have necessarily the credentials that guys who have been assistant coaches for a long time would have. So I think if it's a guy who fans say, I don't know who that is, maybe they're making the right choice, because they don't need to focus on the big name here. They need to focus on developing the young guys that they have and whoever they get in this year's draft.
Sean Deveny of the Sporting News with us right now on 104.5 The Team. Sean, let me be that irrational fan. What about Patrick Ewing?
I don't see that happening.
Okay, all right.
I don't, and it's not. I mean, for one, I would have liked that, a year or two ago. The thing about Patrick, though, is that he just got into the job that he's in. I think it would be a mistake for him to leave it so quickly. He's wanted to be an NBA head coach. And there's no question about that. Just teams kept passing him over year after year after year. I don't see it happening now. I think he's kind of settled in to where he is.
As a Syracuse fan, he can leave Georgetown right now, because the Hoyas are going to be good because of him. Get him right out of there. Get him right to the Knicks. He'll do a fantastic job, sadly, I think, with Georgetown. But Syracuse, we bring up Carmelo Anthony. His teammate, Russell Westbrook, last night achieves another triple-double. Second consecutive season where he's averaged a triple-double over the course of a regular season. Did you have any issues with Westbrook going for 16 rebounds, and how should we perceive this now second straight season of a triple-double?
It's a great question, because I think those are two separate questions. No, I didn't have a problem with it. That's been we've seen this time and time again in the NBA and really in other sports, where you kind of maybe you roll over and let the guy, accomplish some sort of goal. And so I don't have a problem with that. I think back to, if you go way back into the vault, I think it was the 1979 scoring championship where Michael Thompson had, 63 points, in an early game, and then George Gervin had 53 in a later game, to try to win the scoring championship. So, this sort of it's as old as sports. So I don't have a problem with that. But at the same time, I don't think it's the groundbreaking thing that we saw last year. It's sort of a shrug. I voted for Russell Westbrook as MVP last year, pretty much based on the fact that he averaged a triple-double. And nobody had done that since 1962, and there was a lot of talk that it was impossible to do. But now that it's been done, and now it's been done again, I don't know. It seems like it's met with more of a shrug. That it doesn't seem like people are, certainly myself included, are quite as impressed with the accomplishment as they were last year.
Sean Deveny of the Sporting News with us right now on 104.5 The Team. That same shrug seems to be applied to LeBron James. Like, I'm of the opinion, as long as he's playing, he's the most valuable player. Does he get it back this year?
I look, if he had this year, in any number of years in the last 4 or 5 years, he might have won. But you can't really argue with what James Harden has done this year. I think LeBron, I just cast my votes, and he was number 2 on my ballot. He was not number 1, and I don't think he'll wind up winning the MVP. You can certainly, like you say, you can make the argument that he is the most valuable. You could, but just like you could with Shaq when he was at his peak, or Michael Jordan when he was at his peak. But I think the thing is that in the end, look, the Cavaliers were a 50-win team this year. They were not a 64-win team like the Rockets were. And when you look at what made the Rockets a 64-win team, it was Harden, and you have to give him credit for what they did. You have to give him credit for not just the scoring that he did, but the way he got others involved, and certainly, it's hard to admit this, but he actually played pretty good defense, and that's not something we've seen from him in the past. So I think that this was a year that was about James Harden more than anything else. So I can appreciate LeBron's argument, but to me, I had him number 2. I just can't see him being ahead of what James Harden did.
Of all the first-round NBA playoff matchups, which do you believe is going to be the most intriguing series?
How about the Utah, Oklahoma City? And it's not going to be a big ratings bonanza. I know these aren't huge markets, but wow, that could be a fantastic series. That could be a really interesting series because what Utah does defensively is just incredible, and the way they've played since about the middle of January when Rudy Gobert, who was hurt for the first part of the season, in and out of the lineup a couple of times with the knee injury, he's back, and they've been fantastic pretty much since late January. Their defense has been off the charts. And then you have this Oklahoma City team that, with Carmelo and Russell Westbrook and Paul George, are they going to rise to the occasion in the postseason in a way that we haven't seen them do in the regular season? To me, there's just so many stories. Donovan Mitchell, this rookie who's just come out of nowhere, not necessarily nowhere, but has shocked everybody to be a guy who's averaging 20 points as a rookie. To me, there's just so many juicy storylines. Unfortunately, like I say, they're 2 small markets, and you won't see the broadcasters promote that series all that much. But to me, if you're a real basketball fan, I think that's the series to really pay attention to.
All right, nice enough to join us on the phone right now, Sean Deveny, Sporting News. Sean, to repay you, we're going to put you on the spot. Who's your finals?
Oh boy, I'm going to bore everyone and say that we're going to see the Warriors and the Cavaliers again. I hate to say it, and 4 years in a row, I don't like that. I don't think that's good for the league. But I can't see who in the East beats Cleveland. As much as they're hurting, and as much as their supporting cast isn't great around LeBron, and as much as you might like to see a team like Houston or somebody else break through in the West, I think it's going to wind up being Warriors and Cavaliers Part 4. And I think Adam Silver doesn't have any hair left, but if he did, he'd probably lose some, knowing that it's going to be those two teams again, because the league does not want to see four times in a row the same two teams. But I think that's how it's going to pan out.
Would LeBron and his cast of nameless, faceless, except Kevin Love, be able to give him a better challenge than he did last year?
No, I don't think so. No, I think that they were, with Kyrie Irving. I mean, they were built better to challenge the Warriors last year than they are this year. So, I think last year went that series went 5 games. So I think this one would go, 4.5 games. It might be a sweep. It might be 5 games, but it probably wouldn't go much longer than 5 games.
Sean, man, we appreciate you. Thanks for talking hoops with us.
Okay, thanks for having me.